Okay, and over to you, Barbara Fields with AG&T, who is moderating this panel. And Barbara, welcome back to Global Oneness Day.
Oh, thank you. Man, that was really a great panel that you just had. If that's indicative of what's going on all the rest of the day, we're in pretty good shape. Hey, is everybody here on the call with me from Monterrey, Mexico, and from South Africa? Barbara and Juan Carlos and
Hello.
Anna Marie?
Yes,
I am here. Thank you, Barbara.
Oh, wonderful. I can't wait to... The connection is just a little bit tenuous. B1, tell me, talk for a minute and say hello so I can test whether your connection is good.
Too. Yes, we're right here. We're doing this on Skype. We have just gotten off the stage presenting the Wheel of Co-Creation, 12 Spheres of Life, to the audience here, and we've had a major group of 12 leaders from Monterrey declaring their innovations in every sector of the wheel. It's been something of a triumph right here.
That's terrific. Let me I can hear you fine. I'm just going to introduce our panelists today just for the sake of all the people listening in, and then I can't wait to dig in and learn more about what's been going on there. It sounds fantastic. Everybody probably already knows Barbara Marx Hubbard, who's been called the voice for conscious evolution of our time by Deepak Chopra, and is the subject of Neil Donald Walsh's book, The Mother of Invention. Boy, we could say much more about that. She's an author, a visionary, a social innovator, definitely an evolutionary thinker, educator, and she's founder and chairperson of the Foundation for Conscious Evolution. She's produced videos. She's a world-renowned speaker. There's not too much she hasn't done, except for maybe, learned more than one recipe for chicken Provençal. But, we'll go into that later. We'd also like to welcome to the call today Anna Marie Pieterse, who I think many of you also know. She was born in Johannesburg, and she's been part of the humanities team for quite a long time. She's been active in matters of apartheid at the personal as well as the societal level. She's played a big role in our Oneness in the 12 Spheres of Life program that we've done in conjunction with humanities team. Has a great academic as well as a experiential background in many fields. Hi, Anna Marie. How are you doing?
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for that kind introduction. I'm doing fine, thank you. Great to be here.
Great. And Juan Carlos Kaiten, I believe that's the way you pronounce the last name. Is that right?
Yes, it is Kaiten.
Kaiten. Excuse me. Juan Carlos is from Mexico. He's a social artist with skills focused on global collective intelligence, leadership development, social networks, and organizational transformation. He's got degrees in leadership and sustainability and a lot of experience in business and social entrepreneurship in Mexico and other countries. Juan Carlos's focus is to develop new technologies and opportunities for social innovation, which will enable us to operate from a holistic paradigm of interconnection, unity, and interdependence. He's the founder of 11 Mexico, an NGO fostering collective actions for social well-being, and a member of the Hague Center. Welcome, Juan Carlos.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you.
Well, I can't contain my curiosity, and I would like to ask, I'll start with Barbara, but I'd certainly invite Juan Carlos and Anna Marie to jump in. Barbara, please paint a bit of a picture of what's been going on there the last day or two.
Well, Barbara, we have been in a continual process of social synergy and oneness. 2 days ago, we did the first meeting of 12 leaders and several hundred students where the leaders spoke of the innovations they want to create, and then we had facilitated small groups where all the students and the leaders met to get innovations, and we used the meshwork a technology to help people identify exactly what needs and resources they would require, and then they came back on the stage and presented. So that was a startup. Today, we had a major presentation at the Global Oneness Day event, which of course is on United Nations Day, coinciding exactly with your Global Oneness Day, and our 6,000 people here, plus the live streaming, and what is happening through Humanities Team live streaming. We are reaching with this idea of global oneness, 12 spheres of life, the Wheel of Co-Creation, probably easily 100,000 people or more. And what happened here today was a real breakthrough, because we had a big picture of the Wheel of Co-Creation on this huge stage, and then we had 12 leaders of society here who are major positions in every sector of the wheel, presenting their innovations and what they were dedicated to do to integrate with the other sectors. So that what we discovered was the leaders here in justice and health and education and environment, by participating with us, were aware that they needed the other sectors in order to achieve their innovations. And because they were speaking to an audience of 6,000 people and a global audience, the result of it was that they began to speak more eloquently about the need for social integration and cooperation. So by the time we had finished this event right here, the result of it was the education of major leaders in Monterrey. And the follow-on part of it was that we are now dedicated here in Monterrey to actualizing what was created here. So that this
Barbara,
is not just an event. Yes.
Well, no, what I wanted to ask is, I'm before we turn it over, I'm fascinated by the idea of the process in real time under which leadership from all the sectors presented innovations and noticed and discovered their interconnectedness. I wonder if you could give us just a couple of examples or anecdotes of what that looked like.
Well, it was really quite moving. For example, the person who was the head of the health innovation said, there's no way that we can have the health of our people without an improvement of our environment. And the environment said we can't have a good environment unless we broaden the sidewalks and get rid of so many cars. And then the economic leader said, well, we have to recognize that we're not just economics for making more money, we're economics for the people. And then the government had to get up and say, we want 360-degree participation from our citizens, and the way we're going to get it is by bringing all these sectors together. So by the time the leadership of that particular meeting had spoken, they were integrated. And we then were the people like Cristina Gonzalez, with her very important values in the service of life that she has initiated here, because she also has a lot of connection with the power leaders of Monterrey. We have combined power leaders with citizens and with students in a way that's more integrated than I think I've ever seen has happened before. And a lot of that is because that Cristina and Ana Gonzalez, who is sitting right here, Ana Gonzalez, I want her to say a word, because she and Cristina found all these leaders, and I had wondered if they coached them all, because they were all so concerned about integration. Ana, how did you find these leaders?
Just on the road, with the heart, and with too much emotion. I'm sorry for my English. Too much emotion and how do you say, ganas de que esto pase?
The will.
Yeah, the will that it happens, really, the conscience and the transformation of the humanity.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. So what's exciting for me, too, after having done many experiments like this, is there is a real dedication to follow through so that it manifests a new model for a whole city. And so that was, I think, B2, as you well know, we've had a lot of experiments like this, but this was not a conference. It was actually the beginning of integrating social synergy from the perspective of global oneness. And Jean Houston was here, and she said, Barbara, I've known you for 50 years. And this is one of the most successful things that I've ever actually seen happen. And I believe all my friends there and all the friends around the world, that by bringing people together locally for every sector of human endeavor, like health, education, economics, as in the 12 spheres of life, so they integrate in order to co-create, that we're doing what nature has been doing for billions of years. Is in times of crisis, nature takes a jump by connecting separate parts to make a greater whole. What we're doing was so well understood by the people in Mexico, and the audience of 6,000 people were cheering the leaders, who then became more eloquent about integration of all the parts. We were backstage cheering when the leaders were speaking. So it was a real triumph.
I can hear that. I'd like to ask Juan Carlos for a moment. The response of the audience and the leaders alike clearly indicates that society, which I believe is representative of many cultures and societies around the world, is ready for this change. In fact, is more than ready for this change. And the people in the leadership, even in these large-scale institutions, really realize that we can't just go on functioning business as usual, but that we're really ready for breakthrough. And I think that today is one of what will be an emerging number of experiences like this one. But I think I'd like to ask Juan Carlos at this point, is there a strategy or planning, or what do you think can be put in place in order to support leadership in continuing to move along this trajectory so that they can be working on it day by day and evolving it beyond the celebration that you're experiencing in Mexico today?
Well, thank you. Something really interesting is happening in Mexico and in this city especially. Mexico, as you know, is going right now on a big wave of violence. And this city used to be a very successful city in terms of doing business, and you can find the biggest companies and business in Mexico placed in this city. So there are wealthy people. However, when violence reached this city, all the wealthy people started wondering, well, it seems that by just doing business is not enough. And now we have a big problem in our city of violence. So all of them became really aware that they needed to do something different, and they started engaging in all sorts of social activities to save its city. They said, we are not going to click, we are going to defend our cities. And many of these leaders started engaging in social programs. Now, what we are bringing here with the Wheel of Co-Creation is we are bringing a strategy on how to integrate all the great actions that are already happening in the city. We have great leaders with great ideas, but the framework of the wheel is bringing a systemic approach to them, and this is what they are seeing, and all of them are picking this up. Now, leaders are coming here to us and telling us, we want the wheel to be replicated in the different sectors. We have the priest of the Catholic Church saying, I want to do this with the 500 priests in January. We got one of the heads of the environment, he's a very successful businessman, and he said, I have budget, and I want to do this right away with all our people here. And we are going to have a lunch right after this with another group of entrepreneurs, and we will work out the plan on how we are going to make this the wheel, how we are going to make it happen throughout the year of 2015, so we can make sure that Monterrey is a success story.
Mm-hmm. You know, here's a question that comes to mind as you're talking, because this is exactly what we all have been waiting for and hoping for and striving for. It's been my experience that when one is able to convene a group of people at this evolutionary level, that the place that we often begin is with leaders in sectors who are themselves already advanced or progressive thinkers. For example, we did a conference with religious and spiritual leaders in Italy in 2012, and we had representation from all the world's great major world religious traditions, but we found that the people who were attracted were people within their own tradition who were already very progressive thinkers, and we felt that was a very good model because it would be easier to transform the more fundamentalist thinking within their own tradition by people who represented that tradition itself rather than from outside of itself. So I'm wondering, as you go about the idea of convening leaders from the 12 sectors, if you're finding that you're naturally attracting already the progressive thinkers and that you feel they might have a similar effect on the system that they're representing. Juan Carlos, could you comment on that? Oh, I think that maybe we've lost. Anna Marie, are you still with us?
I'm here, Barbara. Thank you.
So that's a question while we're troubleshooting whether or not we've lost the connection. I think that's a question that you're also in a very good position to respond to because you've done such extensive thinking about what it would require in order to develop this model of the 12 spheres. So I guess I'm going to ask you the same question. Is it a good strategy to start with the progressive thinkers?
This is what we have been doing, and I think here we just followed our natural inclination, Barbara, as we were trying to figure out what was happening in these different spheres. Our natural inclination was to look for those who are the change makers, and to be in contact with them. But a very interesting thing that I have discovered with this whole process is not only have we learned from these change makers, but my experience has been that they have also been changed by the process. Like, for example, Colleen Joy-Page, who is the lady from South Africa who we asked to participate in the discussion on relations. I know her so well. Is that I noticed that just the fact that just by her involvement in this whole thing, she had gone to her website and she had added things and she had changed, so you could see that it had changed her outlook, not only her outlook, but, her action around this, and all of this. So we are really inspiring one another. So that is really what I would like to say about that, about, reaching out to these people. And the other thing that came up with when they were speaking about the 12 spheres and inviting the different people to speak who are the experts, is that the important thing, we have done this in South Africa as well before. Whenever we have a oneness event, we actually started years ago when we were first inspired by the idea of oneness in 12 spheres of life. We started, reaching out to people in the different 12 spheres, and we would invite them to speak. But what I liked, what I've heard as Barbara and them were speaking, is that these people, that the importance for these people to see how they and their projects are connected with one another. And I think this is the evolution as well of this whole process and the initiative, isn't that so? I remember when we started out with the idea, just an idea in 2008, and having just heard about Barbara and Marx Hubbard, to what they have created and put together today is just simply astonishing. So to see this evolution of the idea is simply amazing.
Yes, I agree. I've known Barbara since 1993, when we first met through the Parliament of the World's Religions in Chicago, I was program director of the centennial event for the World Congress of Religions from the 1893 Chicago World's Fair and Congress of Religions. And we didn't know each other at all, but she found out about the event, and she actually wrote a letter to the Parliament asking her question, which is, in the particular sector of religion, how can these religions of the world contribute to a more evolved society that is here for the benefit of all, and what is their unique contribution? And I remember at that time that we were talking about the model of the wheel, and we were attempting to even, a couple of decades ago, introduce the idea of the fact that interdependence and interconnection was not just a luxury, it was absolutely essential, but that the way that our institutions were then structured, it was almost impossible for, not that they did not desire to collaborate and cooperate, but their institutional structure almost was prohibitive of that. So while we're waiting for Juan Carlos and for Barbara to come back on the line, I wonder if you could make some comments about what are the possibilities for structuring society a little differently so that that wouldn't be such a problem?
Yeah, I think the possibilities are immense. Barbara likes to speak about the idea of vision. That we hold a vision in front of us, and I can just see. When we do this, we will certainly create a whole new world. I'm also thinking about, again, I go back to 2008, and I'm thinking about the tremendous thing that they have created, and seeing how different ideas are coming together. Humanity's team with our idea of a Global Oneness Day, and we had a Global Oneness Declaration at point in time, and just had this dream, or we had just met the idea of Barbara Marx Hubbard and Oneness in 12 Spheres in Life. And how, when these ideas come together, how when we are inspired by one another and when we follow our heart, that automatically we create the society that we are dreaming of. I don't know whether I'm answering your question in this way, but this is certainly what I'm seeing happening through Humanity's team and with ideas, and also Humanity's team and the other organizations, Association of Global New Thought and Barbara Marx Hubbard, how all this happens and how we all meet and, how we evolve together.
Yeah, no, I do understand the dilemma. I think about this a lot. When Barbara had mentioned, she gave an example before that when the people in the healthcare sector were basically explaining they really can't provide adequate health care for, the entire society of people they're responsible for, unless there's some innovations and cooperations with people who are developing environmental policies. Now, we know, of course, that speaks to water and to clean air and to contaminated food and to, all the various issues of the environment, climate change, etc. And that the environmental people were pointing to the idea that business and government could not, had to be responsible for policy changing and policy making in order for any kinds of changes to be made. And I think that the wall that we keep running up against is, aside from thinking this is a very good idea and really hoping and advocating that it should happen, I'm hard pressed to see, not from the grassroots level, but from the level of powerful institutional leadership,
of governance,
who will be responsible for convening and perpetuating this sort of everyday heavy lifting. Have you thought at all about it in those terms?
Yeah, absolutely. But I suppose, Barbara, it will come from both ways. I think it will continue coming from grassroots level as well as from the top. I think we see change. I think we are used to thinking that maybe, a change or great change like this, especially evolutionary change, is not possible when we look at governance and the way it works these days. But I do see that it is happening and that it will continue to happen like this. The other thing that I was thinking about with a massive thing that an event that they have created in Monterrey, I had a look at the documentation that they sent along, for us as we were going to or preparing for this call. And I must say, it's really something incredible, and it would be so interesting to hear them share how they see this whole idea being duplicated all over the world.
Did you say that they had sent something to that effect that you had seen in the past?
I'm talking about Barbara Marx Hubbard and Juan Carlos. Have you not seen that?
Yeah, I have seen some different iterations of it. In fact, I saw one rather recently. I have quite a few different reiterations of plans for activating the wheel, and they sent one recently. I was actually trying to look it up on my computer right now, but I'm not having a lot of success locating it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information in there, and I have not had a chance to go into it deeply, but certainly it is so rich, and it's really incredible. And yeah, it's so huge, and obviously since they have worked it all out so beautifully, I can see that it is possible to, it would be possible to duplicate that in other places of the world. They've certainly sorted out properly, I'm sure.
There was one from the Hague Center. I wonder if that was the one that Juan Carlos was referring to. The Wheel of Co-Creation in the 6th Worldwide Meeting on Human Values.
So
the purpose of their project looked out as far as the year 2030 to define the vision in that year for the state of Nuevo León and align it to the projects and actions that needs to be developed in order to reach it. And at that point, they then decided they'd like to initiate a co-creative process with business, civil society, and entrepreneurs to identify and integrate transcendent innovations and projects in order for that state to reach its maximum potential. And also to create a platform that integrates citizens and businesses to work together in order to strengthen the selected projects and make them a reality, supported by a success in conditions that would monitor and track the process. And then, of course, create an investment fund in which people and organizations could support and launch projects to cope with the root of the problems from a long-term perspective. So that certainly is, an inspiring, overarching set of purposes.
Absolutely, and it's also massive. And one wonders, one would need a very strong team of people, and one wonders how difficult with this kind of a thing to do. But then again, I suppose it's all part of a process, and it's all part of the evolution. So, it's one step at a time, and the one thing leads to the other.
I know that many of our listeners on the call today are familiar with the Wheel of Co-Creation, but that isn't to say that just because it's something that's very close to our hearts and that we live with on a fairly consistent basis. I'm sure there are lots of leaders and citizens out there who are not quite as familiar with the model. And I wonder if we might take a little time, and I do apologize for the technical difficulty. I'm sure you'd much rather be listening to Barbara Marx Hubbard than to me right now.
Yeah.
Barbara,
are you on?
We're back on. We're sorry.
Good. So that's okay. We might be asking you the same question. We were going to back up, and we were going to ask if you could talk a little bit about what is the Wheel of Co-Creation, what is the hub, what are the golden innovations, what is the process of scanning, mapping, and connecting, and I think it would be good to get some background in that at this point.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. The Wheel of Co-Creation is actually our turn on the spiral of evolution. If you can imagine a spiral starting at the origin of creation, energy, matter, life, animal life, human life, and you see us going around the next turn in the spiral, is that we are in a shift point of either chaos and greater devolution or a jump towards more innovation and evolution. And in nature, in order for anything to take a jump, it connects separate parts to make a new whole. So the wheel of co-creation is a model of the whole system of society. And it has a structure of a hub of the wheel, and the hub is the heart of the wheel. It's the spiritual source of oneness and wholeness and co-creation and collaboration. And then if you move on out, you'll see there are 12 sectors, spokes of the wheel, exactly the same as the 12 spheres of life diagram. Each sector, like health, education, economics, science and technology, spirituality, media, relations, and so on, all of those represent social functions and organs in the social body. They are really not just separate. And just like we learned with holistic health to realize the stomach, the heart, the liver, the lungs, yes, they're separate organs, but they're part of one body. So integrative planetary oneness requires us to see at local scales all the way on up to global that the basic functions of society are part of a whole system. So that's the first thing. The hub coordinates. The spokes of the wheel are where people go to express their creativity and to look for common goals and match needs with resources. They are asked to enter into the sector of the wheel with golden innovations. Now that is an innovation that leads to emergence, to improvement of the situation, to breaking through to new possibilities. So a golden innovation is not simply a project that works, like a better car or a better, toaster. A golden innovation is something that leads to an emerging possibility of greater consciousness, greater cooperation, and greater freedom. Those are the values that are built into the global innovations. And when you get innovations in every sector of the wheel, you begin to see the creativity of the whole social body. And what we were learning here in Monterrey, it was so clear that the people who are passionate about an innovation recognize that they will not be able to fulfill it, like in health or education or economics, unless they get the cooperation of other sectors. And then it ends up to be more than cooperation. It ends up to be co-creation. And then just to finish, co-creation really is the creator within, the divine source of creation, motivating each of us to give our gift, to do our best, to express our potential. And we get a social synergy being a spiritual experience of oneness and wholeness and love.
Thank you. Is Juan Carlos back with us as well?
Yes, here we are. Yes. Apologize for
one of the other very important points. I know we're not just discussing it for the first time now, but we've discussed it at length over the years. Is when we get right down to it, there's a function that not all of us necessarily focus on, but is a very key function, and it has to do with research, data, and information gathering, so that we can actually put some depth and detail underneath this idea of trying to find out what is happening that is innovative in all the different sectors. And I noticed that on your wheel of co-creation activation process, Juan Carlos, you call upon the universities to do such research. And I guess my question is, do you think that we can have the proper cooperation at the academic level, and are there other places we can look to ask for help in compiling this very, very large function in the project?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. The way we started in Monterrey was just by inviting the universities first to make a research of what is the state of each sector right now, so they can provide us with a diagnostic of what is the state. Yes. Then we invited them to also think on what would be the desire, how do we want the state to be, what is the desired state, and what we could do to achieve it. Then we also asked them to point at leaders in the community, influential leaders per sector, who are at the cutting edge of that sector. So that's how we started directing our research of what golden innovations are in the city, who are the influential leaders at the cutting edge of the knowledge bringing those innovations. However, we know that is only one part. The success or the key innovation might still be in the boundaries of the system. And now the process that we're going to do now, we're going to keep doing the wheel in the different sectors of the wheel, reaching out to innovators. So we want to really find innovations that are not only doing something good or amazing, however, they might not be shifting the system into its next level.
And the two groups, I think, that have been most eager to apply the wheel are the Catholic priests, where their statement, Barbara, you will really appreciate, is that religion does not necessarily support spirituality. And they are inviting us to bring the Wheel of Co-Creation into the various dioceses. And it's a Catholic country, of course, but I was very touched by the yearning for spirituality all over this meeting that we've been in. So one of the questions is, how would we then take the wheel within a diocese that would be sort of moderated by the Catholic priest, but bringing all the citizens together? And I keep quoting that the root of the word religion is re-legare, to bind back and make whole. And what's so beautiful about it is there's a heart's desire for this to happen.
Yes. Yes, and I would like
to... No, go ahead. It was just, although it was occurring to me that if we have Catholic priests in Mexico who are beginning to sound very much like Buddhist monks in Dharamsala, then maybe we're actually getting somewhere with that idea of binding one another together, which is very much the point of our Global Oneness Day deliberations. And so I'd like to maybe steer the conversation just for a moment, and Juan Carlos, I'll get back to your comment in just a moment, but I think that we shouldn't lose the track that when we speak about religion, I think of it as a sector among sectors in society, because it is definitely an institution in what is part of our systemic challenge that we face today. But when we speak about common principles of universal spirituality, we're talking about an idea that transcends the sectors altogether. And as Barbara has pointed out many times, it actually drives the hub or the center of the wheel, because it's the underlying story. It's kind of the understory of the motivations in the human heart that drive goodness in all the other sectors of human endeavor. So I wonder if we could talk for a minute about spirituality, even though that's a word that some people can't relate to, and how it might be the real solution.
Well, it's exactly right. From my own evolutionary spirituality point of view is that the whole process of creation is divinely miraculous. That from no thing at all emerged energy, matter, billions and billions of galaxies, the countlessly billions of planets, and our little planet Earth coming to life like this. So the first thing about spirit, because we place the wheel in the evolutionary context, is that the entire process of evolution can be understood to be inspired by spirit in action, the whole thing. Then you get to the hub of the wheel, and you start resonating with each other, like we've done, Barbara, many times. And what happens is you feel inspired by spirit. The spirit is not only, I would say, the vertical coming down from on high, but spirit coming from within the process itself. And I feel like we're aligning with the divine, the intention of the divine, which is always toward more consciousness, more freedom, and more order. And so for me, the whole process becomes spiritual. And when you speak this way, whether it be to the Catholic priests or to the other sectors, they all are touched because they're all spiritual. And just one little insight that came from this arts section. The man who was representing arts said, we have to have art everywhere. We want to have the artists call in to social meetings. We want to have the artists on the street. We want to have art. Then the spiritual people were wanting spirit everywhere. And then the economic people said, well, we have to decide which things really should be supported, and how are we going to do that? We have to be everywhere. And so we started to see the groundbreaking opening of civic participation of all sectors. So if spirit means coming together with source for fulfilling the higher process of the divine, you might say it gets manifested through the whole wheel.
Juan Carlos or Ana Marie, did you want to comment on that?
Yes, I would like just to add, I'm not sure how much did we lose because we kept talking and we realized that we were not in the call, so we might have to repeat some of the things we already shared. In regards to your question on how do we follow up this, one of the strategies we're using right now is that we know that we need to have a strong core, a core group holding this whole process. And basically, Barbara is suggesting that we have them to go through a real pot of a hub that can work, that can hold the spirit in the center, so they can really take this further in a spiritual way. So that's going to be a really important piece.
So the coordinating hub at the wheel is a center of spiritual focus. And the expression of spirit as binding the parts together as a whole, which is really a major function of spirit in evolution, to think of the nature of nature being able to bind together, and every time it hits chaos, it needs to bind together a more complex whole system. So one of the things I feel about the spiritual impulse is that the expression of spirit in action is towards greater connectivity, wholeness, and expression of divine potential of everyone. We feel in a way that we are working with the zeitgeist of spirit, if you could say that.
Yes.
I want to refer once again to, I referred earlier to a meeting of religious leaders from all traditions in Italy a couple of years ago. And the reason I'm bringing it up again is because we have had meetings with religious leaders before to discuss the notion of the evolution of spirituality. But at this particular meeting, we had as many secular experts from the various sectors of the wheel as we had religious leaders. And that was done for a reason and by design, because we were able to establish some universal precepts or practices that all the different religious leaders could fundamentally agree upon, because they knew that they represented universal values for spirituality and not just particular precepts from their own religion. And when they were able to express this, it affected what were considered to be the core values of the other secular experts who were present. So we saw in action that there was an actual bleed over in those two groups. Anna Marie, did you have something to add?
Yeah. No, I agree with that totally, Barbara, but I would like to go back to, as they were dropping off of the call, Barbara and then they have created something tremendous and big in Monterrey, and as we shared, we had the opportunity to go through the materials that they have supplied. My question, as we are a grassroots movement, a humanities team, is how will this whole thing be duplicated? And Carlos also mentioned the fact that it would be important to have a very strong core team. Maybe you want to share a little bit more about that.
Well, I think the duplication, first of all, is that we need to take a few more steps here and also in Egypt where it's already happening, so that we can document it and learn. because this is a very high learning curve for us. It's not as though it's a fait accompli. And what I would think that we would like to do once that has happened is start offering it where people would like to work together to do it. And we could have a training school of alchemy, which would be, and combining with the School of Conscious Evolution, is have some training programs. And I would like to do on internet, for example, some trainings on social synergy, social alchemy, social conscious evolution as an entire curriculum, and then bring the students together who would then continue to participate in their own communities. So because of having internet now, we haven't really thought through all of this. But I would like Anne-Marie and Barbara, and certainly with Humanity's team, to participate and co-create with you on how to do this. It may be a whole next step for Humanity's team as well. I wonder if...
Because I was wondering, for example, I was trying to picture in my mind, you know, you're talking about a massive event. What we see on paper is certainly something enormous, and also, you know, listening to you speak is something so big, and maybe in a way also not all that comprehensible for people on the ground. So I'm trying to picture there where you are at the event, and you're talking about 1,000 students who received a scholarship to participate in all of this. So is it an actual physical event that was attended by so many people? And so you had lots of people that represented the different, the 12 spheres of life. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. You want to describe it, Juan Carlos?
Yeah, we have right now, as we speak, we have 6,000 people attending.
Say the meeting before on the 29th.
Okay, well, on the 29th, we have started with 36 influential leaders, 3 leaders per sector, and then that way we have started building the heart of influential leaders, of leaders that can make things happen and that can hold innovations and the whole process. So that's the strategy on how we started. Now we have
and then you had the students in there.
Then we have a second iteration where we brought students and NGO leaders, and together with the leaders of the community, they started looking into golden innovations, and now the wheel started to move. We have people interested in several sectors to start doing wheels and work in an interactive way.
So, would you agree with me, because it has been our experience with the 12 spheres of life and the Wheel of Co-Creation. It is about the grappling with these ideas. Again, you know, I'm coming back to the grassroots level. My own growth with this whole thing, and I can see how this can be for many people, is the grappling with all of this, because you know, as we evolve, first, I mean, we just never thought about, we just don't think consciously, many people, about the different systems that we're actually so part of in our lives and that govern our lives. And as you become familiar with this, and as you start working with this, you begin to see how they work and how they also do not work, and we begin to imagine and vision how we want them to be. So I can see that this will also, the way that what you are creating will also evolve in this same kind of a way. So it's through the grappling with it and bringing all of the different things together that it will continue to evolve, and you know, that we will be able to take it forward.
I think you're right, Anne-Marie. It's not so complicated, because you look at the wheel and you're in a community, let's say wherever you are, and you think maybe there's some people who are active in the health field or active in education. That's not so hard. It's 12 people. And you bring them together and ask them what they consider to be the state of that field and what are innovations they already know about. And then you can bring in some other people to facilitate how to improve that to happen. And we did it in a relatively small way on 2 days ago.
Okay.
Now, it just happened that here there's a big conference that has many other people, not just us. And we were included in a major, it's a once-a-year conference on global, what's it called, the Encounter of Global Values.
Yes.
And Christina Gonzalez has organized this for 6 years in a row, and this is her 7th year. And she had said, I don't want just people describing the values. I would like to see the values coming into action. So that's one reason why she invited us to do this, to support the values that people are expressing. Like Matthew Fox was here, Leonardo DeBoff was here, some very brilliant people were giving, but usually it's a speech about values. And what was great about us, our speech was how to act it out. And Mona was saying, we need to have a place for all these people who are at this conference to somehow give their names. And Mona, you wanted to say something about your experience to do this?
Yeah, it's just having done an experience to activate the wheel in Egypt a month or on September 21st, it's interesting here being an observer because to answer your question about how can this be replicated, I've been sort of I've been seeing, what is really needed for us to develop something that will work locally with the uniqueness of each place and at the same time can be a global model of interconnectedness where we can share, golden innovations. And I think some of the keys to that are going to be this new online platform where we can input all of the golden innovations and share them globally, and also the system for complementary currency that would enable the needs and resources to be matched and exchanged in an ongoing way, so that we can continue to have events and in each place, but that we can also continue that interconnection online as well, and with other systems. So I think that in Egypt and Mexico, it's going to give us the opportunity to ground those platforms, and then it will be much easier for that to replicate much faster everywhere else in the world.
Thank you, Mona.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going back to this whole the whole notion of the grappling with all of this, and just the amazing thing that we call energy. If I just look at what we have done with the Wheel of Co-Creation and the 12 Spheres of Life in Humanity's team so far, which, when you look at it from the outside, it looks very simple, but it is that simple engagement with all of that, the engagement that was not there before. Thinking about arts, for example, I remember when I put together the descriptions for the different 12 spheres, just going into that sphere in particular and to see how this is made up and the potential of that sphere and how it connects with other spheres in life is simply phenomenal. And so all in all, it's just wonderful to see how far you have taken it now, but to see how all of this is connected and how all of these spheres, work with one another and how we evolve through that is really beautiful and really powerful.
That's wonderful. So I guess, sorry, did somebody else want to say something?
Ana Gonzalez just wanted to add something.
Yes, I just want to say that. Just that I am from Monterrey. I am helping Barbara, Juan Carlos, and Cristina to make this happen, and I'm very happy because we really need in Monterrey and in all the world that actions with love happen for evolution, not for revolution, like Barbara said. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. This is a good point in the program for us to wind down. We've got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to ask you each for your last comments. But I think also it's a time to reach out and ask for everyone who's listening on the call today to take a moment and think about what does this actually mean to your real life right now in your own community, family, city, on the ground. In other words, if we don't individually, personally make commitments where we are right now to help perpetuate this new model in society, I really don't know how it will come about. So I think I'd like to ask you all to comment as we close up today's really wonderful session, despite our earlier technical difficulties, to think about what can a person do every day in their lives and what can they motivate their community to do to become a little more coherent with what we've been talking about.
Well,
Barbara,
I was thinking, one thing I suggest, because I know people write into Humanities Team and Global Oneness Day, is just to, in your comments, if you're interested in getting more information on this, please notify the Global Oneness Day team here so that we would know enough to be able to send you information as it comes through. That would be number one. Number two, for everyone, wherever you are, it would be to tune into the spirit within you as to your deepest desire to create and express. And imagine yourself saying full 100% yes. Then take your next step to express your own goodness and creativity one step further than you ever have before, on honor of Global Oneness Day. That's my thought.
Well, that's a pretty good thought. Anna Marie, how about you?
Yes, thank you. Yes, this is Anna Marie. Yeah, seeing that the Wheel of Co-Creation and the Oneness and 12 Spheres of Life is based on the way that the model that the universe works, I want to encourage everyone who's listening to keep on looking at nature and to look at universal laws and to apply those to our lives, and in that way create the change that we are dreaming of. And thank you so much for creating this wonderful call and for the Wheel of Co-Creation, Barbara Marx Hubbard, and everyone who created the great event in Monterrey.
And thank you, Anne-Marie, for the marvelous 12 Spheres of Life and the description that you gave of each sphere, which I really highly recommend that everyone review what you've already done, because I found that to be the best thing that I was able to find on each sphere of life in the direction that would be more spiritual and more conscious and innovative. So thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Barbara.
Did Juan Carlos have any closing thoughts to share with us?
Yes, I do. I am really excited. This is a dream come true. I have had always the vision of humanity uniting and changing the world. Now I can see the mechanics of how it's going to happen. The Wheel of Co-Creation is holding the codes of uniting humanity. And what we are doing right now, myself and Mona Rabi, with my partner working in all of this, we are integrating the best of collective intelligence and social technologies we know, and we are complementing the wheel so we can have like really a very integrated process to facilitate or enable humanity to learn those tools and take strategic steps as a collective global social body. So I believe this is going to make a difference in the world.
And you know, Barbara, this is a remarkable gathering because I want to honor you for the work that you've done in social synergy and the great planetary awakening events you did for the Association for Global New Thought, and also for the Global New Thought Awaken World Film Festival that you are sponsoring and developing in Santa Barbara, bringing the arts and media to tell the new story. Because one of the most important things of people being able to take this step is to sponsor and propose and create works of art and film and media that describe what's creative. So thank you, Barbara, as well.
You're welcome, and thank you because Barbara Marx Hubbard is going to be our opening speaker on opening night, Monday the 27th. But I have to close this program right now with great gratitude to all of you. Everybody stay tuned who's listening because the next segment is a keynote interview with Ken Wilber, moderated by Steve Farrell. And before we begin that, we're just going to take 10 minutes of silence and wish you all a next wonderful hour of this Global Oneness Day program. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.